Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast. Today with Jacob Maggard
Dalton Phillips.
and this week we're going to be doing 10 more pick'ems. Got 10 fun games lined up, a couple big ones, and we're pretty excited for them. New feature to this week's show. Me and Dalton both going to be bringing in our Mountain Dew flavor of the week.
I've got Mountain Dew Spark.
I got a Mountain Dew Voltage, the all-time favorite Mountain Dew.
Yeah, had to refresh it up a little bit. A little
Yeah,
bit of
a
ice.
little bit of ice. But fun little segment at the beginning, a little touch of creativity. But I guess we'll hop right into it. Of course, we got a big one here to start us out. The Fighting Illini versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. This is a fun one. I mean, it's two teams that could be on top of the college football world, and their fan bases would love every single second of it. Um, Statistically speaking, looking at this game, we got Luke Altmaier, quarterback at Illinois. Of course, he's been pretty good so far, leading the 3-0 team. Offense has been rolling. He's got 647 passing yards, 6 touchdowns on the season. Of course, he's throwing to his lead receiver, Pat Bryant. As you can see on the season, he's got 15 catches, 235, 4 touchdowns. Looks really good. And then, of course, Illinois' running game is something to
Yeah,
talk.
they've got three running backs that they've been rotating around quite a bit. Caden Fegan, Josh McCray, Khalil Valentine. They all play.
Mhm.
I like that though. I like being able to spread the wealth right there. Just give it to everybody. If they're making plays, let them make plays.
Yeah, and it keeps their backs healthy.
Yep.
As you can see, Fegan is their lead back on the season with rushing yards, but in their last game, he actually didn't end up being the lead back. The other two guys kind of shouldered the load and ended up being pretty good in that game. On the other side of the ball, we got Nebraska, of course, Dylan Raiola. Everybody knows who he is. He's the copycat Patrick Mahomes.
I don't like that guy.
But he's off to a good start, man. He's looked pretty good as a true freshman. It's pretty impressive what he's doing. And then of course their run game, same deal. If you want to talk about it.
Dante Dowdle, he's their starter. I mean, he plays, but they also run with two other backs, Ramir Johnson and Emmett Johnson. Johnson and Johnson, I like that little hand soap there. Run. They both run the ball. I mean, that's another team in college football. I mean, I've noticed it a lot this year. A lot of teams are running multiple backs. Like you don't have one dominant back, even though there is some teams that proceed to run that one back to death. But I like the handing it to multiple different people. Like there's another team that you can just feed the ball to other people and make plays.
All right, well, going to make a pick. This is not an easy one. It's a big game, actually, really big game for the conference. Both teams, of course, fighting to stay undefeated. Both teams, whoever wins is gonna jump up a little bit in the rankings. So, pretty important one for both. I'll let you lead us on this one.
I'm gonna go Nebraska. I feel like Pat Mahomes and that home field advantage they're gonna really show off there. So I can
Yeah,
see Nebraska.
I'm gonna take Nebraska too. I think Nebraska, Raiola, I trust him a little bit now after seeing him play a little bit. I didn't know coming into the season as a freshman if he would be all that, but so far he's looked good. He can lead
Yep.
their offense, and they have running backs that can help him if he's struggling. All right, next game here we got NC State coming to Clemson. Of course, NC State had an embarrassing loss to Tennessee. That's their one loss, and then Clemson, same thing, pretty embarrassing loss to Georgia. But they come out and look really good on offense the next week against an App State team that's known for upsetting Power Five schools. Looking at the stats on the season, Grayson McCall's the leading passer for NC State, but he's considered day to day right now. And CJ Bailey is the quarterback taking over there. He's going to be the guy in this game, I believe, and that's definitely going to hinder NC State's offense a little bit. He's not a bad quarterback. He came in last week and played, but it's
He can
it's,
run the ball pretty good.
it's going to be a big moment for him. He's going to have to really step up to win this game. On the other side for Clemson, of course, Cade Klubnik's quarterback. He's been there. We uh, we know what he can do in games against smaller opponents. He's done it multiple times where he's looked really good against an opponent that's not an elite tier opponent. But then, of course, against Georgia, he looks horrible, and it didn't even look like he could compete with that level of defenses. Looking at the running game, that's, of course, a big story on both sides. I think you got some stats on that.
NC State's run with two rushers, and one is Jordan Waters and Kendrick Raphael. Raphael was actually the best back last week, even though he didn't play very well at Tennessee game because nobody played good at Tennessee game. I mean, they can run the ball pretty well. I mean, both backs run the ball pretty well.
Yeah, they're going to have to run the ball if they want to win. Clemson knows that. They know that they're going to have a young quarterback in. Of course, for Clemson, Phil Mafah, star back.
Yeah,
We talked about it week one. If they wanted to beat Georgia,
he's
he
just
had to go off, and he didn't.
yeah,
So week two, he come out, he had a crazy performance, and that's what they kind of need out of him.
yeah.
Again, I think he will run well against the NC State team that doesn't have a strong defense. They're not bad defensively, but
Not really. They don't really have anything like note about. They're just like eh.
Yeah.
They're just there.
NC State, passing wise, Concepcion's their lead receiver, but again, he's had games where he's not looked very elite this year. They definitely need him to step up in a big way. Then, of course, on the Clemson side, Bryant Wesco Jr. He's been their star, but it's only 4 catches, 135, and a touchdown. So we'd like to see more out of him this week. Going to make a pick in this game. To me, even though Clemson looked rough week one, I think this is a pretty easy pick with a young quarterback taking over for NC State, and I'm going to take Clemson at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Clemson here too. I just don't see that in the NC State team that we've seen at the beginning of the season.
No, they've struggled against
Yeah.
multiple opponents that were not on the level of Clemson. Next game here, we got JMU traveling to North Carolina. Quarterback is he's solid. He's not amazing. Now he's a young guy. He's been there. He stayed there. He didn't leave when the coach left, so that's what's got him his job. His name is Alonzo Barnett III. Again, not a phenomenal quarterback, but he does his job. And then, of course, on the other side, UNC's had a lot of problems with the quarterbacks this year because Connor Harrell is the guy that has their stats. He's their stat leader, but he's not the quarterback right now because last week Jacoby Criswell takes over for him, and we really don't know what happened to Connor Harrell. There was no injury designation, but we assume injury because he come out pretty early on in that game and Criswell took over. Of course, for JMU, it's going to be important that they can run the ball. Lead back is George Pettaway on the season, 18 carries, 114 yards, and a touchdown. Now, of course, Ayo Adebayo was supposed to be their lead back, but he's facing some injuries right now. He was a North Texas transfer, 1,000-yard rusher, so they expected him to be a key piece of the offense. With him down, it's obviously going to make it tough. And then backup that's going to step in for him is Tyler Purdy. He's a Holy Cross transfer, followed the coach in, Bob Chesney, new head coach at JMU. And there's obviously some connections there. He was his back there last year, so he definitely trusts the guy. So that part of the running game can be efficient, and they need it in this game. I think you got UNC stats.
Oh, especially on the other side of the ball. I mean, Omarion Hampton is a stud, man. I mean, he is a absolute stud. Last game, he had 25 carries for 210 yards and 3 TDs. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, he's a stud back. In my opinion, think he's the best running back in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, so far.
I mean, I think I'll put Genty there because of how good he's performed.
Yes, Genty's been amazing, but in my opinion, Omarion Hampton, without him, which is you could say the same for Genty, but without him, North Carolina is nothing without Omarion Hampton. They have now played 3 quarterbacks. If you take Omarion Hampton out of the situation and it's their backup backs, whoever they may be, this team is completely different. They are definitely not 3-0, and they likely are 1-2.
Yeah.
To me, that makes him the MVP of that team.
Oh, yeah, he's 100% the MVP of this team. Yeah, UNC.
Yeah. In the receiving game, JMU, not too notable. Dawson's been their lead guy, but of course, I mean, they've spread the ball around a little bit, but the passing game definitely has to be more efficient to have a chance to beat North Carolina. On the other side, Bryson Nesbitt, his performance is key because they're going to have a young quarterback in there throwing the ball to him, and that's what they need. They have to be able to check it down, and he's not going to go down the field a bunch. So it's going to come down to Omarion playing well, and it's going to come down to Nesbitt catching short passes and getting upfield. Picking this game, it's definitely not an easy one. I mean, you would have looked at it 2 weeks ago with Max Johnson at quarterback for North Carolina and even a 3-0 North Carolina team, you'd have thought they're probably pretty big favorites over a JMU team that's lost a lot. But this is a North Carolina team down to its 3rd quarterback, and JMU knows what they want to do. They want to run the ball. So, I don't know. It's a tough one to pick. I'll let you lead it.
I'm going to go UNC here. I think the running game for them is just so dominant that I just see them winning the ball game. Even
I think that's definitely
with the quarterback position.
I think that's definitely key. I think it's tough. I'm going to go UNC as well, but it's not a pick I feel super confident about. I think that UNC definitely has a better football team all around, so I think that gets it done. But the quarterback play is concerning because he has to play well for them to be a JMU team that's definitely hungry for a big win here. Next game here, it's a fun one. Georgia Tech traveling to Louisville. Louisville has so far looked like probably the 2nd best team in the ACC. They're very competitive, but this is their first true matchup. They haven't played anybody else really.
They haven't played anybody at all, no.
Georgia Tech, quarterback Haynes King, dude's a stud. He makes a lot of plays, and of course they've already played 4 football games, so they're coming into this pretty experienced, and that's definitely going to help. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have played the games, and they haven't faced any super big injuries to lose anybody key coming into it. And of course, on the other side, Louisville's quarterback, I mean, as you can see looking at his stats, through 2 games, 581 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's looked really good. He's definitely the key to the game for him. Of course, Louisville's run game's been really good this year. I mean, lead back is Isaac Brown. He's looked amazing. 13 carries, 166 yards, 1 touchdown. Now, he wasn't their lead back in game 2. Maurice Turner was. But it's important to know that they weren't playing a super good opponent in that game. So I'm assuming Brown kind of took a break once they got to a pretty heavy lead. And then, of course, I think you have Georgia Tech stats.
Oh, Georgia Tech, they run the ball. That's what they do.
They've been
I mean,
known for that.
yes, they've been known for that, and they still do. I mean, Jamal Haynes is their lead back.
Mm.
I mean, he's good. You have Haynes King in the backfield, which is, my opinion, a top 3 rushing quarterback in college
Yeah, he's
football,
elite. Elite.
and he's elite at running the ball as a quarterback. Zach Pyron, they have the set up with him in the backfield. He's a bigger guy. He's mostly used for like short yardage, but he's a quarterback, and he runs it right down your throat. That's what they do. They run
Yeah,
the ball.
Tyron is a big dude, and they put him in on some sets that they actually used him in the Florida State game. They've used him a couple times this year, though. They get down towards the goal line, and of course he's a quarterback, so you still have to respect his arm and his ability to throw the ball. And they'll put him in the backfield and run like a quarterback power right up the middle. It's usually quick, short yardage,
And
and
that's a hard person to tackle.
he's scored a couple rushing touchdowns. That's definitely what he's used for, more of that short yardage stuff. And then, of course, receiving. Georgia Tech has a pair of really good receivers, Malik Rutherford, Eric Singleton, both studs. As you can see, Rutherford, 22 catches for 285 yards, 2 touchdowns. Singleton's kind of woke up here lately, had 2 really good games in recent. But that's important for them because Louisville has got a really good defense. They did last year, led them to being in the ACC championship game last year. So again, another important part of their team is their defense. On the other side, Ja'Cory Brooks, he's the lead receiver for Louisville. Of course, that's their main target. As you can see, 13 catches in 2 games. He's going to be getting the ball a lot. He's a playmaker, dynamic playmaker. And for them to win this game, they're going to have to really use their run game and really use their star players on offense. Going in to make a pick in this game is not easy. Of course, I like Louisville. They're 2-0, 19th ranked team in the country. Again, I said they look like the second best team in the conference. But to me, I don't know. I like Georgia Tech's experience. I like their quarterback a lot, and I think Georgia Tech gets it done here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Georgia Tech also. They just have the mojo about them.
Next game here, we got USC traveling to the Big House against Michigan. Of course, both teams, Michigan struggled a little bit here and there, but this could be a bounce back game. Looking at the stats, Miller Moss, USC quarterback, he's been great so far. Of course, he's filling in for Caleb Williams, who's now in the NFL. And the other side, Davis Warren, former walk-on, struggled a lot through the 3 games they've played. 6 interceptions to his 2 touchdowns. That is it's really concerning for them. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback if he isn't the answer. And then running the ball, I think you got some stats for us there.
Woody Marks, I mean, he's pretty good. Last week he had 13 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown. He's also a great receiver. Like he can get the ball in the backfield, which is really good, especially against a Michigan team. Because Michigan does have a pretty decent defense. They're not as good as they were a year ago, but they're still pretty good.
Yeah, they got some star players, of course, like Will Johnson, and it definitely helps to have a receiving back. You have the option to check it down to him, throw some screens to him, and Marks is that. He's been good this year, and they're going to need continued production from him.
Michigan's got a pretty good running game behind Quill Mullings. He's a good running back. 15 carries, 153 yards. That's 10 yards a carry. That is
last week he went
crazy.
All.
And, two touchdowns to add to that, too.
That's what you needed. And then, of course, Donovan Edwards performed last week as well. Kind of the first game all year that he stepped up and been great. Now, of course, Donovan Edwards on the cover of College Football 25. A lot of people were expecting more out of him, and Mullings has pretty much taken the starter job, the key back out of the backfield. Of course, in the receiving game, we got 2 guys that both tight ends here. USC, Michigan both love to use their tight ends. Now, Colston Loveland, we already knew he was going to be a stud this year. Some would argue he's the best tight end in college football.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he is definitely the key to their offense getting going. If anything, Warren needs to start using him more. Just go to the guy. Let him make plays for you because you're really struggling going anywhere else. And then, of course, on the other side, USC has Lake McCree. Lake McCree's been, pretty good. 9 catches, 137. No touchdowns yet, but we'll probably see some touchdown targets. And catch a couple passes in this game. That's definitely going to be key. Looking to make a pick. Again, it's at the Big House. It's not ever easy to go play there. But in my opinion, USC is the far better football team. I think USC is a top 10 team, even though they're ranked at 11. I think they're right there with those top 10 teams. And I'm gonna take USC.
Yeah, I'm going to go USC too. Michigan just hasn't really shown anything to me to show them that they can beat high caliber opponents.
No.
They just haven't looked very good at all. And I'm going to go USC there.
All right, next game, we got Utah at Oklahoma State. Now, this is a big one of the Big 12. Very important for both teams. both looking to try to win a conference championship this year and snag a playoff spot. Both quarterbacks are veteran quarterbacks. We saw some earlier on social media that the combined age of the two quarterbacks is 49.
Oh my gosh.
We got two vets here.
That is
Two
crazy.
vets. Cam Rising, of course, everybody loves Cam Rising. Awesome guy.
Cool
And then you
guy.
got Alan Bowman at Oklahoma State. Now, Rising, it is important to note that he has been injured so far this year, which is that's been the issue of his career. But I'm pretty sure he's going to play this week. If not, Isaac Wilson has played well when needed, and that's the backup quarterback up at Utah. If Rising is for some reason hurt in this game or unable to go, Wilson can still give them a good chance to win a game. Looking at the running game, I think you got some stats for us.
Yeah, Micah Bernard last game had 17 carries and 123 yards. Another great game by some more running backs. I mean, even with Cam Rising being hurt, if you can have a back running for 120, 130 yards a game, you really don't have to worry about that much about your backup quarterback being in. Especially if you can rely on your running back being that good.
He can put relief on your backup quarterback. He can open up the offense a little bit more and allow the passing game to be easier, especially when you got a guy that's got almost 300 yards through 3 games.
Yep.
Rushing for almost 100 a game.
And the other Oklahoma State has an insane running back. Ollie Gordon is ridiculously good.
Yeah,
he hasn't played as good as he could be right now. I mean, he is still playing good. I mean, don't trust me. 216 yards is still good, but Ollie Gordon, you think of him getting 100 and 130 yards a game.
He's not been near as good this year as he was last. Of course.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, he won the award last year for being
the best running back. Yep.
If you can kick up his running game, it'll be pretty important because their offense kind of flows better when Ollie's going off. Yep. And this is a huge opponent where you're going to need Ollie to play well. Mm-hmm. Again, receiving wise, Utah's leading receiver is still Dejon Stanley, who has not played since week 1. He missed snaps in week 2, and then since then hasn't touched the field. Still their leading receiver, but it's because Utah spreads the ball around a ton. A lot of different receivers catch passes from them. And then, of course, Oklahoma State. Dejon Stribling obviously looks great. 17 catches, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's phenomenal. And then they have another guy, Talon Shetron. He's been amazing as well. So they got 2 targets that have been going off lately. Of course, Stribling had 7 catches, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns in his last game.
Crazy game.
I mean, that's an insane game.
That's an insane game, yeah.
I think, again, it wasn't against a phenomenal opponent, but
still,
it's not easy to do that against any college competition. Looking to make a pick. This is huge. I mean, this is probably your favorite to win the Big 12, whoever wins this game. I don't know. Coming into the season, I would have said Utah was my favorite to win the Big 12, but Oklahoma State has looked phenomenal. Their passing game is far better than I thought it would be, and even without Ollie Gordon going, they're 3-0. And if Ollie Gordon gets going, they're terrifying on offense. So for me, I'm taking Oklahoma State at home.
I'm gonna copy you again. I'm following you every time this time. Yeah. I'm on Oklahoma State too because I just think that offense is so good, and I want to see Ollie Gordon show out because when he shows out, that offense is ridiculously good.
All right, next game. This is a fun one because this USF team, of course, has competed with some pretty legit opponents. Their one loss to Alabama, which they didn't lose, but right at the end, last 5 minutes, Bama goes out and scores 3 touchdowns and shuts that one down. Miami has looked elite, like definitely the best team in the ACC so far this year. And of course, it's because of their quarterback play. Cam Ward, in my opinion, so far is the Heisman. I think it's him, and of course, we mentioned Genty's name earlier, but Genty up at Boise. I think Cam Ward so far is the Heisman. 1,000 yards already through 3 games.
That's crazy.
A lot of that is going to his lead receiver, Xavier Restrepo. He has looked phenomenal. Restrepo is awesome. He's a great receiver. 14 catches, 263, 4 touchdowns. That's a phenomenal start to the year. And of course, on the other side of the ball, you have Byron Brown. He's been a good quarterback so far. Not a ton of passing, but as you can see, he's their lead rusher. Byron Brown, 46 carries, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was known to be a good rushing quarterback coming into the season, and of course, he's definitely the key of their running attack. I think you got some stats on their other backs.
Yeah, Naquan Wright and Kelly Joyner, and I mean they both get carries too, which is always good because you want to split your carries. But that's they're both pretty good. They both played well, and especially behind that quarterback, they can run so well.
Yeah, it definitely helps because both guys are not going to wear themselves down as the year goes on. Running back's a position where we see injuries all the time. And like I said, both backs, statistically speaking, both got over 100 yards on the year. Yep. So that's helpful. You got 2 backs.
And they're getting carries. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, you have two backs that are both good, and it definitely helps the offense when you have two backs that can work and keep the ball flowing. And then, of course, for the other side, run the ball. Miami's Damian Martinez, he's their star back. He was a guy that was talked about a lot coming into the season, was going to be a key to their offense. And then, of course, they got some other backs if you want to talk about those guys.
Yeah, AJ Allen. I mean, he had a heck of a game last week, and also Chris Johnson Jr., which he doesn't play as much, but I just think that's a cool guy to know because I love CJ2K Chris Johnson. I know you do too because you're a
Oh
big
yeah,
guy.
yeah. I'm a Titans fan, so of course Chris Johnson's son is going to be a talking point in the future for them. If he's anything like his pops, he'll be a
He'll
key.
be that guy.
Of course, this is a unique situation. Miami's traveling to South Florida. If anything, the fans will be there. They're going to show out for this game because this is probably the biggest game that their program has hosted at home.
Yeah,
A 3-0 Miami football team, and it's in your home state. Going to make a pick. I'll let you lead us on this one.
I'm gonna go Miami because down there in South Florida, you're right next to Miami. All the Miami fans are going to be there, and that Miami team is tough behind Cam Ward. Like Cam Ward is a stud,
Yeah,
an absolute stud. I'm going to go Miami.
I agree with you. I don't think South Florida will stay in it too
No,
long. Now they can maybe keep it close for a half. It's a home field advantage. They have a good run game, and if they can keep it flowing, maybe keep the clock running, it'll help them stay in the game. But yeah, I think in the end Miami wins by probably 2 scores, maybe more. It's a really good offense. Cam Ward's a stud, and of course they can still run the ball pretty well. Next game. This is a fun one. Kansas State traveling to BYU. Now, this is BYU's first huge game of the year, so it's a pretty important game. Looking at the stats here, of course, Avery Johnson, Kansas State quarterback. Like I've stated before, in my opinion, I think he's the best running quarterback in the country. They have an entire playbook that is surrounded around him running the ball, as well as some star backs they have. Of course, Avery Johnson, 490 yards, 6 touchdowns, only turned the ball over once. He's definitely the key to this game. But I mean, like I stated before, their backs are also great. I think you have some stats on those guys.
yeah, DJ Giddens. I mean, last game he went 17 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's a good game, especially having a rushing quarterback that's that good too.
Yeah.
Like
In that game, Avery Johnson had over 100 yards, and that was against an Arizona football team that was ranked. So,
that's a good Arizona team too.
yes, you have Giddens going for big yards, you have Johnson going for big yards, and they mollywopped that Arizona football team. It was 31-7 at the end of that game. On the other side of the ball, Jake Retzlaff, he's their quarterback, of course, as you can see, 841 yards, 7 touchdowns. Hopefully, he doesn't turn the ball over in this game. For them to have a chance, they're going to need him to protect the ball. And then, as you can also see, he's their lead rusher. 24 carries, 113 yards, and they don't have a ton of production from their other backs. Going to make a pick in this one. It's not easy. BYU was a team that a lot of people, we didn't know what to think of them, but they're 3-0. And even though Kansas State is a really good football team, it makes it a tough pick. I'll let you lead on this one.
Yeah, I would love to see him like throw down there at BYU after a win against Kansas State, but I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna go Kansas State here. But even though BYU has beat my Vols like 2 or 3 years ago and upset the crap out of us, but I'm gonna go Kansas State here.
All right, next game we got Rutgers traveling to Virginia Tech. This was a big one for us as a Tech fan. I expect a lot here. It's a home game. The fans are definitely going to be out for that game. Going into the game, looking at the stats, of course, Kyron Drones now has 628 yards on the season, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Liking to be a little bit safer with the ball. But again, I want to see us air it out. So if it leads to an interception here and there, it's unfortunate, but it happens. We have to open the playbook to allow the offense to flow. Running the ball, Bashal Tootin, one of the best backs in the country, definitely one of the best backs in the ACC. 52 carries, 269 yards, 4 touchdowns. Last 2 games, he went over 100 in both of them. And Price said in his press conference, give 33 the ball. Let him run all over teams because he is a beast of a back.
He will do that too.
Yeah. Receiving wise, we have multiple big time targets. Of course, Jennings, we don't know is healthy yet, but we definitely need him in this game. Hopefully, he is healthy and full go. And then Gosnell as well had an injury last week, but he finished the game. All 3 receivers, Lane, Gosnell, Jennings, and then of course we also have Felton on the outside. Those guys need to get the ball more. Hopefully the playbook is starting to open up and they will get the ball more because I think we can beat this football team with a really good passing attack. As you can see on the other side of the ball, Rutgers quarterback Ethan Kaligmanis, 377, 6 touchdowns. Their receiving core is not phenomenal, but the thing that's going to win them this game, if they were to come in there and beat us, it would definitely be their running game.
Kyle Monunga, he is a stud, built like a bowling ball at 5'9", 210 pounds. I mean, that's a hard guy to tackle. And last game he went for 208 yards and he broke away a few runs. And I mean, imagine tackle that guy. He also had 3 touchdowns. I mean, you can't tackle a guy that he has that he low to the ground. I can't imagine that time. I'll be completely honest. That'd be
Yeah,
crazy.
for Tech, the key in this game, of course, the linebackers have to play better than they've played this year, and the D line has to show up. Now, our D line is loaded with guys, transfer guys, and some edge rushers that have been really key. I think we're going to get to them in the passing game when they try to do that. And I'm just hoping we key in on their run game, make them beat us by passing the ball because they want to run the ball. They are well coached and they have a good offensive line. They are going to want to run the ball the entire game. Me and Dalton will both be in attendance for this game.
We will be.
So we're hoping the team shows up for us. Going to make a pick here. You know I'm sticking with the boys. I'm going Virginia Tech. I think we win this football game, but I do think it's really close. And Rutgers is a team that does scare me with their run game.
I wrestled a guy that's on their starting D line, Keontae Hamilton. Dude killed me back in the day. But I'm going to go Virginia Tech here.
All right, next game here. Obviously, a massive one could be considered the game of the week.
Huge
We got
game.
Tennessee traveling to Oklahoma, and this is their first big SEC challenge.
Yeah, this is my team, man. I love Tennessee, always will. But I think behind Nico, we're going to be good. I mean, our offense is crazy with as many weapons as we have, and especially in the backfield with Dylan Sampson. I mean, he has 357 yards in 3 games. That's insane by itself, and especially how much we can pass the ball. But that Oklahoma team is very good.
Yeah, I mean, digging into the stats for both teams, of course, Nico's almost 700 passing yards on the year. He hasn't had to play a whole lot of second halves.
Yeah.
Of course, like you said, Sampson's been great, and then their backup back, Deshaun Bishop,
Yeah.
he's also looked good. Had his big breakout game, I guess you could say, last week. Oklahoma is a scary good football team. Jackson Arnold, in my opinion, has looked like a phenomenal quarterback. I mean, he's able to run the ball this year, 159 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and then, of course, we're not even mentioning his passing game, where he's got 7 passing touchdowns. And then, of course, stud, Deion Burks. That's their guy. That's the receiver. But, I mean, going to make a pick here. Tennessee's D-line, arguably the best D-line in the country. I think they wreak havoc in this football game. Now, I do think Arnold and Oklahoma keeps it close. It's at home. Oklahoma fans will show up. This is their first SEC matchup as an SEC football team. This
They're
is
going to
the
give
first
it a welcome here.
And it's a big-time game. You're drawing one of that so far has looked like one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the SEC this year. You're drawing them in your first game in the SEC. Going to make a pick in this one. I think Tennessee does win this one. And looking at the schedule, to me, this is super important for Tennessee. They really get to come in and prove who they are as a football team and prove if they are a top 6 team in the country.
Y'all already know where I'm going to go. Vols all the time. Our defensive line is just insanely good. They're going to wreak havoc against Oklahoma. I think they're the best team in the country. That's a bias there, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We're a lead on both sides of the ball, and I think it's going to show. Go Vols.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Tennessee comes away with this one. Now, I don't agree with you on being the best team in the country, but I do think they're really good, and I think they'll show that against this Oklahoma team. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Of course, this was a super fun week of making some picks. We had 10 really good games, and I'm pretty excited for these games. I think we got some good matchups, and we'll see how me and Dalton do this week. Of course, last week I went 9-1, my best week so far, and Dalton, he went 8-2. So, we're both getting better at this stuff.
We're improving. 10-0 maybe?
10-0 would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Reviewing what we talked about last week was we wanted to do, a crowd pick, a fan pick. We did have some results on those picks. I think we had someone in the comments go 8-2, so that's solid, a good week. And overall in the year, I'll hopefully can get some stats on that next week after these picks. That'll be a third of the way through the season, so we can get a good idea of who's doing what so far. Dalton, if you have anything you want to add, you go ahead.
No, thank y'all, and always go Vols.
Yeah. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. And if you don't mind, like and subscribe. It's going to help the channel out a lot. And, peace out, everybody.
Peace.